growth happens on the edges, and growth can't happen without curiosity. It can't happen without you willing to push the boundaries of the known. Welcome back to the Against the Herd podcast, the podcast for high performers who are done with shortcuts, surface level advice, and the just grind, just push through it culture. I'm your host, Armando Cruz, and in today's episode, I'm going to expose why many high performers stay stuck even when they do everything right. Most people approach health like a checklist. And by the way, I love checklists. Doing it helps with consistency. But we look at the, health and it's like, hey, eat clean, check. Drink plenty of water, check. Train hard, check. Sleep enough, check. All those things matter, but they're not enough. You see, that is one-dimensional thinking. And our health is not a one-dimensional thing. It's a seven-dimensional problem that we need to solve or feed on a day-to-day basis. So today I want to walk you through the seven dimensions of health, the full body, full life framework I use with my elite athletes, CEOs, high-performing parents who want more than just pain relief, than just getting by. They want excellence, they want to create impact, and they want to do what they want to do on their terms. So they want that unsustainable or unsustainable. They want that sustainable energy. Uh, they want that resilience, the ability to adapt to anything that life throws your way, right? So let's break that down, right? Let's break that down because if you're the type of person that is a high performer that wants to create deep impact and has been playing checkers in the game of chess, this is right up your alley, right? We need that seven dimensions to really solve this problem, not just the one dimension. So I work with a client of mine. Her name was Samantha. She was a high-powered tech founder. She was eating right, lifting 4 days a week. She had all the meditation apps. She had it all, right? But she still was exhausted, frustrated, and in pain. Like she would tell me, she's like, man, I'm checking off the boxes. I do all the right things. You know, I get the amount of hours of sleep that I need. I do my meditation apps. I eat well. I exercise. But why do I feel like I'm running on fumes? And I would tell her, health isn't just a physical thing. If you've listened to other episodes, I've talked about this idea of pain being different types of pain. You have physical pain, emotional pain, spiritual pain, right? But um, here's Samantha, smart, high-performing woman, and she is only looking at this in a one-dimensional way. By the way, not because she was being careless or lazy or anything of the sort. She just, when you don't know what you don't know, how can you do it, right? So I would express to her that, this isn't just a physical thing, and that she was ignoring essentially most of the dimensions that will actually move the needle. The moment we zoomed out, restructured her work rhythms, improved her home environment, reconnected her to growth or adventure, her energy came back and came back with a vengeance. We didn't fix her health, we aligned it with the seven dimensions of health. And once you align these things, it amplifies energy, it amplifies vigor, excitement, because you're feeding the nervous system, you're feeding the brain, you're feeding your purpose with something deeper that very often gets lost because all we think about is physical. So let's break it down So that here are the seven dimensions of health. And I use this with my high level clients that like really, really want to take it to the next level. And so let me just break each one down so that you get a deeper understanding of these seven dimensions. Number one is physical, right? I'm going to start there because that's the one that we know. So it's the starting point that we can all talk from, right? And this is your movement, your sleep, your nutrition, your hydration. It's the baseline for for much of what we do. But then we got to go levels, mental, right? This is your internal dialogue. Man, we can be our worst critic. And if you've gotten into that habit, it could really wreak havoc on you. And I've met some of the most successful people that from the outside, you're like, man, they've got it all together. But that internal dialogue is toxic, it's poisonous. And if you don't address that, eventually it will catch up with you. So the mental is that internal dialogue, those beliefs that you have about yourself, about the world, about others, your focus, your clarity. Um, so number one is physical, two is mental, number three, emotional. Man, the emotional stuff, the stress, the trauma, the grief that you're juggling. You know, some people have seen some horrific things, have had to experience that. I mean, like the amount of gratitude that I've had that I haven't had to experience the level of trauma and grief that I've heard from so many others. I'm just so grateful. And I'm grateful that I haven't had to go through any of that. But I'm also grateful that I get to be there for my clients in this state. Um, so that they can draw from my energy, from my love, from my uh, whatever I can give them at that moment to help them through that. Because I'm not there to be the savior. I'm there to walk the journey with them in that dark alley. I'm there to shine that light to help them find the way that they need to go, right? I'm there with the flashlight, shoulder to shoulder in the trenches with them, trying to help navigate that with them. So, emotional, you have that stress, you have that trauma, you have that grief, uh, um, like how you process pressure. Like, if we don't address that, you're not going to be healthy. You're not going to be able to eliminate pain, especially chronic pain. And then number four is spiritual. This is like when we say spiritual here, this is your sense of purpose, your sense of meaning, why you get up in the morning. And so it could be religious, it could not be. Um, but what I found, and again, what I'm sharing here is from a perspective of experience, people I've worked with, that when you believe in God, when you believe in something greater than yourself, it's so much easier to, how do I put this? Like, actually, let me rewind. Instead of going that way, let me go the other way. If you don't believe in anything greater than yourself, it is so easy to get stuck in yourself and you go in circles and go in circles because you can't break out of that. Very often, like you just run circles around yourself and everything becomes about you. But when you have something greater than yourself, your purpose, your meaning in life is something greater. When there's some, you know, being greater than yourself, it's so much easier to look up, to reach for it, right? Because because um it it's something that's ingrained in us. We are spiritual beings. We're not just flesh and bones. There's a soul, there's energy, there's something greater that is unseen and is attracted to the light, is attracted to something greater than us. For me, it's Jesus Christ. And, you know, making that and surrendering that to Him brings more purpose and meaning in my life. And so, um, why do you get up in the morning, right? Like that, if you can't answer that, And it's not just to go to work. If there's not something greater than that, very often, this spiritual level is lacking. I'm not going to say lacking. It's probably not optimized to the point where you can maximize the full potential of your health at that point, right? Number five, relational. Man, who you surround yourself makes such a difference. Who's your circle? They are the oxygen that fuels you, right? Like, are the people you surrounding yourself sails or anchors? Are they giving you that propulsion, or are they holding you back? One of my best friends, Alex, is one of the people I interviewed on the podcast. Man, we've gone to we've been together, we've been friends since kindergarten, right? I'm 45 years old right now. Since kindergarten, we've been friends. And we're closer friends as adults than we were as kids. But we had this shared experience from kindergarten all the way as adults. And you better believe that when I succeeded something, he's giving me a call and he's like, man, I'm so happy for you. I remember now thinking about it, now that I say that, in high school, I made, I ran cross country track. I made the first team all day, which is for our county. And I never really thought of that. Like, it wasn't a thing that I thought of. I was just in there, like in the grind, trying to get better. And he took the time to take, this is back in the day when we didn't have the internet. And he got the newspaper clipping and he framed it with my picture on it, that it was on the newspaper with the names of all the first team all day. And he wrote something on the back. And I still have it. I have it somewhere here. I can't, if not, I would pull it up, but I do have it somewhere here. And I remember when he gave it to me, then being like shocked because first of all, I didn't even know that I made the first team all day. But then as an adult, after living years and seeing kind of life, I saw really the power and the value of, wow, here is somebody that that was celebrating me, even when I couldn't even see it. And you know, I do the same thing. I like anytime that he tells me he shares a success, like to me, it makes me so happy. It makes me so happy to know that he succeeded in something. He achieved a milestone that he was after, a goal. And that's what it's about. Like, surround yourself with people who will raise you up. Surround yourself with people who believe in you more than you believe in yourself sometimes. Because if you're a high performer, if you're pushing the boundaries, there are going to be those low moments. And I can't tell you how important it is to have those people at your corner, raising you up, shining that light when all you can see is darkness, when all you want to do is hide. And they're like, hey, it's time. Let's get back on the horse. Let's get back on it. A setback. What is it? The famous quote by Willie Jolie. A setback is a setup for a comeback, right? And man, so the relationships that you have, the people you surround yourself with, make them sails, not anchors. If you find yourself with that you're not attracting those people, this is a chance to shine that mirror and say, hey, how am I being? Right? Because you can't control other people, you can control yourself. And if you're not that person for other people, I can guarantee you that it's part of the reason why you're not surrounded by those kind of people. I 100% believe that. Actually, there's a study which I found fascinating about the most popular kids in school. And they were trying to determine like what makes the popular kids? Is it because they're amazing at sports? Is it because they're beautiful or the prettiest ones? Is it because they're the funniest ones? And what they found that the most popular kids were the ones that essentially acknowledged more people. So think about this. You're walking down the halls in school, you're walking down the halls at work, and the difference between that person that just like head down, gaze down, ignores everybody, and just goes straight to wherever they got to go versus that one that is like, I see you. Hey, what's up? Hey, what's going on? Gives you a smile. Those people become, that was the one thing that all the most popular kids, the most popular, in this case, the study was with kids, they found that that acknowledgement, that they said hi to more people than anyone else. And if you think about it, it's like, oh man, people want to be recognized. People want to feel that connection. And so if somebody is giving that to you, if somebody is showing you that connection, all of a sudden you feel a connection to them. And so now, if that person's saying hi to more people are like connected to them, so they become the more popular ones. And by the way, I'm just sharing this as a side note, but from a relationship perspective, treat others the way you want to be treated, right? Like the golden rule, right? Treat others, right? The platinum rule is treat others the way they want to be treated, right? Because sometimes the way you want to be treated and the way they want to be treated may be different. But the concept is this: seek similar to the Hippocratic Oath, right? Seek to do no harm, right? Seek to love, seek to amplify others, seek to raise them up. If you do that, I can guarantee you, you're going to attract more people that will do the same and reciprocate for you. So that was number five. Let me just kind of go physical, number one, mental, number two, emotional, number three, um, spiritual, number four, five, relational, six, environmental. Man, your space matters so much. In fact, again, some research shows that your environment is one of the biggest predictors, not the only, but one of the biggest predictors of your success. And we've all heard of stories of people who have surpassed uh, horrific environments. And you're like, oh yeah, but look, that guy did it. He got out. And kudos to them. But the data is quite clear that the better your environment that you can stack around you, the better and more likely for you to succeed. And so, you know, a simple one to think about it is if you're trying not to eat cookies, but you buy cookies every week, the likelihood of you eating cookies are very high, right? But if you eliminate cookies from the house, the likelihood of you eating cookies decreases. If you now also eliminate cookies from the work environment, you further eliminate the likelihood of you eating cookies, right? I'm not saying it's completely gone, but it adds more steps that if your ultimate outcome is to avoid cookies, that's what it is, right? So I'm not just talking about cookies, I'm talking about your environment, the lighting, the sounds, the clutter, nature. Oh man, don't even get me started. Like this will be a podcast in and of itself at some point. But nature, the disconnect that we have as a human society with nature is astounding. Nature has the ability to heal, to rewire, to get us into this place that puts us, I don't know how else to say because it sounds weird and I don't want to sound airy-fairy, but this idea of frequency. So imagine a radio, and I know this is going to date me because some people listening to this are not old enough to really understand this, but Before, there was a radio, and you would turn the knob to find the radio station. It was like a line, and it would be like 90.5, 90.7, 90.8. And it would just kind of go, and you would have to find the right frequency to hit the radio station so that, oh, all of a sudden you can get and listen to the music that you like without static or with significantly less static. And think about that. Imagine that you eliminate nature, you don't connect with it, um, you don't spend time out in nature. And I'm not talking about just to go for like, between your house to your car, from there to like spend literally spend time in nature, right? So nature has that same effect where life starts getting staticky, and you spending time in nature are those micro, and I say micro because it's very often not a huge like shift. It's a micro shift that goes from static to clarity. And that reboot can make all the difference, right? So your environment, again, spaces, sounds, aromas, man, we are sensual beings, meaning we live through our senses. We experience the world through our senses. And so our environment feeds our senses. And if you're in a place that stinks, like if I leave my running shoes in my car throughout the day because I ran in the morning and then I went to work, when I come back, the car freaking stinks and I have to air it out. It's not the best of environments. It is what it is, right? Um, but a very different experience when, hey, the car is completely clean. You walk into the car and it's like, man, this feels so much nicer. Same thing happens with the house. Clean sheets. I don't know if you ever had that experience where it's like you get the clean sheets on, you sleep different. It's a different environment. If you've ever tried essential oils, don't worry, I'm not trying to sell you any essential oils or anything. Um, but there's a reason why these essential oils actually impact our mood. Is because the olfactory senses, the way we smell things, really completely change the way we feel, our mood. It changes so much. And so use all your senses to optimize your environment for success. It speaks to your nervous system. It speaks to you spiritually. It speaks to you emotionally. It speaks to you and physically. Finally, number seven, adventure. Now, this is one most people don't think about. And adventure is that willingness to explore, that willingness to grow, to stretch yourself, to occasionally step over the edge. It's that curiosity of like, ooh, what happens if I do this? Curiosity is like that, those electrical paddles that just like shock somebody from a flat line. That's what it does. It invigorates, right? Because you operate from a place of potential. What if? What if? And there is something powerful in the certainty, but growth happens on the edges. And growth can't happen without curiosity. It can't happen without you willing to push the boundaries of the known. That's where innovation happens. That's where, those one percenters move beyond everyone else because they're willing to work in the fray, in the edges. But it's scary and it doesn't always work. Sometimes you get hurt. Sometimes it just again, you get hurt, right? But there's a depth there that is really essential for growth. So these dimensions don't just keep you alive, they keep you awake, they keep you aligned, they keep you just invigorated, right? Um, when we talk about adventure, like a lot of times people think adventure just means travel, risk, adrenaline, but it's deeper than that. It's like like I said, I use the word adventure because for me, and when I created these levels, I wanted to name it something that I could remember and something that excited me. And so adventure has always been one of those things for me. But it's really about that sense of curiosity, choosing growth, even though comfort is easier, right? Like, yeah. Actually, I'm gonna share this story real quick. So I remember I would go camping with the kids. I taught all my kids how to make fire from scratch, like with without a lighter, like with a ferrocerium rod. I've even taught them how to do it with a bow drill. I've taken them camping, fishing, and it's just something about like the great outdoors. And I love that name of the great outdoors because they truly are great. But anyways, the point is that um most times I invite them to go and do any of these things. The answer is almost always no. And it's almost always no because they're indoors in air conditioning, comfortable. And, every time that we go on these trips, I always talk about different adventures I've been on. And they've been on adventures. They've done things that they didn't really think that they could do. They've seen new things that most kids haven't. And I always remind them when they're playing on the computer or something like that, because you get into the zone. It's like, hey guys, let me ask you a question. You know the adventure stories that you guys love? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know the adventures that you've had? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Let me ask you a question. Where do those adventures take place? Do they take place indoors behind a computer? And then they stop and they look at me and then they're like, they either do one of two things. They do. They like they get it, they turn it off and they're like, let's go. Or they kind of look a little bit like they also get it, but it's a little bit more of a, oh shoot, you're right. None of it happens there. I go, where does it happen? They're like outside. Let's go outside. Let's do something out there. It's gonna be uncomfortable. This is hot. It's Miami. It's the summer right now. And it's like crazy humidity. You got mosquitoes. There's a lot of stuff that's uncomfortable. But in that discomfort is where you learn new things. You experience new things that you can't get from comfort. So it's about learning something new, stepping into unfamiliar territory. And that means mentally, emotionally. I mean, I got this bug going on here. Sorry. Physically. Um, I had this client of mine that he was a competitive athlete, but he had a groin injury from soccer, and he went to therapy, followed the rehab plan, no changes. And then he finally came to me and we started exploring some new things. We started exploring some of his breathing patterns. We brought in fresh new training stimuli. Um, we gave him a new reason to compete. Uh, And he started embracing this curiosity because instead of training, it was like we started we started poking at this idea of play. And within 30 days, he wasn't just sprinting. He was just like a new person. He's like, man, I've really enjoyed this idea of just playing. Like I was playing soccer, but I wasn't playing. I was serious about it. And again, you do need to get serious, but this playfulness gave him a curiosity, gave him a new sense of purpose around it. It gave him a new level of growth that he hadn't seen, and it started bringing a smile to his face. And, you know, there's nothing more powerful than that that joy, right? Like if you feel joy about something, you're going to be excited to do it. If you feel joy about something, you're like, man, even the hard work doesn't feel as bad. You're like looking forward to it. You know, adventure like keeps you expanding. Um, it stops it stops health from becoming like stagnant. And so, anyways, I just kind of wanted to dive into that one a little bit more because I feel like that one gets I feel like we've talked about the other ones in some capacity, and maybe you've heard of it like that, like the physical, most people mental, some people have heard of that, emotional, spiritual, some people have tapped into the relational, a few into environmental, but very, 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 very few really have gotten that understanding of really what it means when we talk about that adventure. And so at the beginning, I mentioned how like many high performers stay stuck even if they're doing stuff. They're doing most things right. And I shared that it's like this one-dimensional thinking that keeps people stagnant and stuck. They focus on fixing their diet, but they ignore the stress of their marriage. They train hard, but never rest. Um, in a space that supports their recovery. They chase goals, but forget to ask, does this even matter to me anymore? Right? Like, I don't know if that's ever happened to you, but that's definitely happened to me. You kind of get into that rhythm of things, and at some point along the line, it's not even that important to you anymore. Um, they crave routine, but they kill off curiosity. Like if you feel off, it's not because you're broken. It's because the system is stagnant, like a pond that's rotting. And I don't want you to think like I've heard the term balance, and I used to use the term balance. I don't use it anymore. Um, I like it less. I understand the sentiment of it because a balance feels good, it feels whole, but something in balance doesn't move. And what I want is progress for you. I want progress through stability. I want progress through clarity, through curiosity. You need to have the right momentum there. And you need to have, or maybe saying it in a different way. So, like, high performance isn't about doing more, it's more about aligning. And so, I want you to start using this 7D framework today, right? That seven-dimensional framework of the physical, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, relational, the environmental and adventure. And I want you to audit each one of these. Ask your scale on a scale of 1 to 10, how aligned am I in each one? You know, audit. Hey, physically, look through these different components of the physical on a scale of 1 to 10. How am I in each one of these areas? Then after that, identify the weakest links. That's usually where pain and fatigue hides. Like where you're looking at some of these, start addressing them, but don't go like, let me give you an example. When you start addressing them, because well, actually, let me get to three um before I start diving into that. So let's start from the beginning again. So number one, audit. Audit your each dimension on a scale of 1 to 10. Where am I in each? Number two, identify the weaker ones. That's very often where the pain, fatigue, friction really hides. And then number three, take one small action in each of those areas, right? Like, let's say that environmental is one of them, right? Don't try to do a complete overhaul. Ask yourself. So let's say that you gave yourself environmental 5 out of 10. Don't try and go from 5 to 10. Say, what would it take to get to 6? Okay, great. Why? Because what you want to create is a step. Taking a step creates forward momentum. Taking that step allows you to progress. And so once you get there, you can ask, okay, what does it take to go from a 6 to a 7? Great, take that step. Break it down into these smaller ones. Environmental, maybe it's decluttering the drawers. Okay, great. Emotional, maybe it's like journal what you've been avoiding. Adventure, let's see what adventure. Saying yes to something that feels uncomfortable. Maybe a friend says, "Hey, you want to jump in the cold plunge?" And you've never done that, and you're like, "This is gonna really suck." And let me tell you, it's probably gonna suck if you've never done it. It's cold, right? It's called a cold plunge for a reason, right? Anyway, so the whole point is like, what would be a plus one? Take the top three that are the weakest links and say, how can I plus one them? And then once you go there, how do I plus one them until they catch up to the other ones? Um, you don't need to overhaul everything. You just not need to start moving in that direction, right? Finally, let me leave you with this. We weren't put, let me rephrase that. My belief, and if you're a high performer, if you're a person that wants to create impact, if you are that type of person with a big vision, you're not here to survive life. I truly believe all of us are here to experience life to the fullest, to expand, to grow, to explore. Pain, fatigue, burnout, they're not just physical problems, they are alignment problems. So if you are ready to stop chasing hacks, start building a body and a life that actually works, look at the whole system. Go back to the 7 dimensions of health. And if you want help mapping all this out, if you want help guiding you through this, why don't you go to cruisecountry.com, schedule your um your pain profile analysis. We can kind of dive into some of this stuff. The stuff that's really creating the most amount of friction, where it's physical health or physical pain that's actually hurting, or just like you're feeling stuck in life, right? And if you're feeling stuck, that you're not the only one. You're not the only one. Um, it's what I've dedicated my life to. And I want to be able to be a resource for you. Hopefully, these podcasts, the content that I put out is a resource to help you with this. But if you want me to stand shoulder to shoulder with you, help bring some clarity where perhaps some areas you've been stuck, go on cruisecountry.com, schedule your pain profile analysis. I would really love the opportunity to speak to you. I love hearing people's stories, and I love helping people from the darkness and get to the light, get to that point where they no longer feel stuck and they feel vibrant, excited, ready to move forward. Until the next time, I've been Armando Cruz. Stay sharp, stay curious, and keep pushing against the herd.